G'day guys, and welcome back to the Life Outside podcast, where we share stories from outside to inspire you to get outside as well. Today I'm very excited to have Marley Butler on the show. Marley is an avid thru-hiker, outdoor photographer, and very recently achieved the unsupported fastest known time on the Bibbulmun Track right here in Western Australia. Marley is a fellow 2024 Pacific Crest Trail finisher, which he thru-hiked with his partner Catherine, and we crossed paths pretty often on the trail. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming out. It's pretty cool to have a fellow PCTer here in Perth, because I don't know about you, but didn't meet many Western Australians on the PCT this year.
There was just this one guy, something about Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah, that was me.
Dodgy fella.
Yeah, we didn't have many West Aussies. There's plenty of Australians.
Yeah, actually Australians from just about every state, I think. But yeah, WA people were few and far between.
I know, so it's good to have someone to reminisce with. And you've obviously just come back from hiking our local thru-hike, the Bibbulmun Track. When I say hiking, it was more of a fast-paced hike.
Yeah, I mean, as far as FKT goes, the pace was actually pretty slow.
I guess in context, yeah.
Yeah.
But very, very insane effort. I really want to get into that a bit more later. But before we get to the FKT, and before we even talk about the PCT, you've done a lot of thru-hiking over the last few years. We were just chatting before how we've probably hiked very similar trails over a very similar time period over the last couple of years. Bib Track, Te Araroa, Pacific Crest Trail, even you've done the Larapinta in that time frame as well, so have I.
Yeah, some stuff around Tassie too.
Some stuff around Tassie, same. Yeah. It's crazy. So we've been on a kind of similar trajectory, but I'm interested to know if you've always been into hiking, into the outdoors, you've always been interested in thru-hiking, or has this been sort of a recent addiction of yours?
It's probably more recent. Like growing up as a kid, I probably spent more time in front of the TV than outside, that's for sure. Playing video games, fairly standard, insular kid. Yeah. And then, I don't know if this kicked it off, but in my family, whenever we turn, I think it's 16, my dad takes us up Bluff Knoll. So there's three kids in my family. And yeah, each time when we turned 16, went up Bluff Knoll. And I really enjoyed that. And I think it might have opened my eyes. I can't remember. That was quite a long time ago now. But then, got a little bit more into traveling, drove over to Brisbane, did kind of the backpacking life. That was really cool. And then I think I did the Cape to Cape as my first hike. I can't remember how old I was, probably like 20 or something like that.
Right. How long ago was that?
Yeah, got to be like 8 years ago.
Okay.
8, 9.
So that was the first multi-day hike?
Yeah. Went terribly.
What went wrong? What happened?
I just had no idea, I think. And I had all this lightweight gear. Like I made a hammock, which I have not hammock camped since. And so I had all this lightweight gear, but then the food, I don't know, I just packed a whole bunch of bananas that probably weighed like 5 kilos or something like that. And I thought I was just going to do like 50 Ks a day. Yeah. And injured my foot. Still made it, but it was terrible.
I think most people's first experience overnight hiking is, something goes wrong, right? It sounds like a lot of things went wrong for you.
Yeah. But I think most people, they start off with a 30 kilo, 50 pound pack or something like that.
Yeah, you went straight ultralight.
Yeah, ultralight and ultra heavy on the food. Sure.
I think that's a big mistake people make. The first person who ever took me on an overnight hike was on the Bib Track when I was 17, my friend Luke, and he had hiked the full length of the Bibbulmun Track when he was 20, which at this point is 15 years ago. Wow. And I remember him telling me the food he bought like canned food, like canned meals and stuff. Yeah. Like everything was in tin cans. Yeah. And I remember thinking that was just like normal for him. He didn't know any better, but he did the whole Bib Track with a crazy heavy pack, and it was just mostly food. I think that's a big mistake people make, like not getting efficient weight to calorie sort of foods.
Yeah, all the water weight, it adds up. Water is probably the heaviest thing, individual item that you'll carry at any one time. Yeah. So, yeah. I
always tell people that is you can have the lightest pack in the world, and then if you carry 5 liters of water, you've kind of just wasted all of that effort. Yeah. And most of the time you don't need that much water. There's definitely times where you want to carry, a bit more water if it's particularly dry and there's no water sources ahead, obviously. But yeah, I've sort of tried to hone in the art of carrying the absolute bare minimum amount of water as I think is safe in most situations.
I'm kind of the same. I think
the
perfect situation is like maybe 2 or 3 Ks before the next water I finish mine, and then
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's probably not the best advice to give to a new hiker to skimp on water, because you never know what kind of situation you're going to end up in. But if you have experience, you're confident in your ability, saving weight on water is a huge leg up.
It's probably not good advice even for experienced through hikers, to be honest.
It's probably not something we should be preaching.
No,
but it's something that we do.
You should probably rock up to the next water source with like 300 mils left.
Sure.
At least.
Sure. I don't think I've ever done that.
No, probably not. If I do, I'd be like, damn it, I messed up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's hilarious.
300 grams I carried.
And it's same with food. If I get to a town and I have any food left, I've failed. Like, I want to get into town with 0 calories in my backpack.
Yeah, that's true. For some reason, I don't mind so much on food, because at least there's like, I don't have to like resupply as much.
Sure.
But,
yeah. I will literally like overeat just to finish all my calories before I get into town, because I'm like, if I'm carrying it, I want to have eaten it and had a use for it.
I guess you want to get those calories in too, so it's probably good.
I lost less weight on the Pacific Crest Trail than I think anyone I talked to, and maybe that was the reason, because I just always ate everything I brought, and then in towns I ate ridiculous amounts of food.
Do you know how much you lost?
I lost like 5 kilograms.
Yeah, that's not very much.
No, do you know how much you lost?
Yeah, I think I lost at least 12 kilos.
12.
Yeah.
See, that's a huge difference.
And I think like just looking around, it seemed like I was eating more than anyone else. And like I would get into town, eat a whole pint of ice cream, and then like a huge pizza.
Yeah.
And that would be lunch, and then
I think most people lost around 10 or 12 kilograms.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the vibe I get, but yeah, I lost 5, and then 2 weeks after getting back to Perth, I had put it back on. Like I weighed now what I weighed pre-PCT, so
I definitely am good at putting weight back on.
Yeah.
After the hike.
I mean, once you have that hiker hunger and you're used to eating that much on trail, as soon as you get home, if you continue doing that, you're not burning anywhere near as many calories, so it just piles back on.
The last few years have just been cycles of doing a hike, losing a whole bunch of weight.
Yeah.
And over, I don't know, summer or whatever, putting it all back on and then doing it all again.
Your body doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You're just like going back and forth. Like it's almost like you're dieting, and then you're not. You're not dieting though, because you're still eating the same amount of food the whole time. You're just suddenly burning ridiculous amounts of calories and then coming home and not. Crazy.
It is nice knowing that you've got a hike coming up and you can kind of just eat whatever you want, because it'll be gone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Actually, that's probably one of the best things about hiking in general, is that you can kind of just eat whatever you want.
Yeah, totally. So Cape to Cape was your first multi-day hike. Didn't go the best. What was next after that?
Oh, wow. I can't remember.
For those who don't know, the Cape to Cape is about 130 kilometres. It's like a coastal trail here in Western Australia. For those you international listeners who have no idea what we're talking about.
Lots of sand. I remember that.
There's a lot of soft sand.
It's actually harder. Like I've done it a few times now, and it's harder than what you'd expect, I think.
Yeah, soft sand just drains you.
Yeah, it really does. I think after that, did quite a few summers in Tasmania, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe like 3 summers in Tasmania, kind of like hiking photography trips. Because I did the Cape to Cape, and then like I drove around Australia a bit, and then I have a really bad memory. So I kind of came up with photography as a way of triggering my memory a bit, so I didn't forget these awesome places I was going to and the moments I had and stuff like that. So
you got into photography just after the Cape to Cape, or sort of in that time period?
I think after I drove around Australia and went to like all these cool places, and I was going through all the photos, and I just had phone photos. And back then phones were not very good at taking photos, and I was like, I wish I had some better photos, because like you can still get the memory trigger with the phone, but then I guess I plunged down this the path of wanting to perfect everything. So
if you guys haven't seen, Marley's photos are incredible.
Thanks, Cam.
I remember seeing them pop up like from different through hikes before we met, and very, very talented.
Yeah, thanks. I try hard. But yeah, it's been a while since I've gone through them properly. But
yeah, I know you have a big backlog. We've chatted about that before. Yeah. You shoot a lot and then find hard to edit and post often, especially when you're on hikes.
Yeah, I think I've just been doing too much walking, and then other stuff, I guess.
Yeah, not enough downtime to actually get through it all.
Yeah.
But you got it all there.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was like a big focus of Tasmania because I just wanted to go to more beautiful places, and Tassie just seems like the mecca in Australia for beautiful places.
It really is.
And I was really attracted to going to places that you had to walk to, you know, to kind of feel like you've earned it a bit.
And no one else is photographing those areas.
Yeah, I think I was looking at other people's photography and I was like, oh, I want to go there. So people had probably taken photos of it already. But Tasmania is absolutely stunning, and there probably is just like a million places that people actually haven't photographed in Tasmania.
It's just so wild there. That's what I love about Tasmania. There's so much wilderness where there's no civilization anywhere near you, and you can just go walking for days and not see a road or a person sometimes.
Yeah, I think like something like a third of the state is just like untouched wilderness, basically. Yeah, it's definitely rare these days, and you know, something we need to keep fighting for sure.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. What trails did you hike in Tasmania, or have you hiked over the years?
I think, what was the first one I did? It was probably the South Coast Track. So I've done that a few times now. And then I think, initially I was planning to do the South Coast Track, the West Cape Track, and then the Port Davey Track.
Yeah.
But then there was a fire. So I couldn't get out on the Port Davey. So I started to do the West Cape Track, and then I dislocated my ankle.
Right.
And then I waited around for a few days while it healed up, and then I walked the South Coast Track back out just after dislocating my ankle.
That's a decent expedition.
Yeah, it took 9 days to get out.
9 days just to get out?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Wow.
I was basically limping the whole time.
When I was on the South Coast Track, I remember seeing a guy who had just done his ankle and he caught a helicopter in. You're like, no, I'll just walk out.
Well, the thing, because I was planning this big long trip, so I'd got a whole bunch of food flown in there, and I was actually carrying the whole bunch of food when I wrecked my ankle.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't have that kind of like time impost.
Sure.
So I had the food to walk out.
Yeah.
And
may as well spend the time in nature.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was probably more just thinking like, I just don't want to get rescued. That's embarrassing.
I totally get that. Yeah. I would probably crawl out before I called a helicopter in if I wasn't going to die like suddenly.
And speaking of getting rescued, like I feel like it was maybe like the next summer. No, it was probably the first summer. I went back to Tasmania, and did like a trip up into the labyrinth, and I went off trail a little bit to do like nighttime photography. Then this like big mist came in. I lost my way.
Oh, right.
Like I didn't know how to use maps or anything like that. And I actually became like a missing person. Like these people who I was camping with, like woke up in the morning, I wasn't in my tent, and they were like, oh.
They filed a report.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, I had like, eventually there was like a chopper going around looking for me. I was back on the trail by then, and I managed to like sat phone them. But yeah, so this is my first tour of Tasmania.
Wow. Jeez. Well, I mean, doing all these things and having things go wrong is what I guess makes you so confident now, doing all these crazy long hikes.
Yeah, I mean,
you grow and you learn and you realize what you probably should have known, you know, how to read a map.
Yeah, it was definitely a valuable learning experience. It turned out at any time I could have just pressed that little GPS button on my maps, and it would have been like, boop, you're there.
You're there, yeah.
I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I was walking around like all night being like, where am I? Like taking long exposure shots just to try and get landmarks.
No. What?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of genius, to be honest. But
well, it was so foggy I couldn't see any of the mountains. So it was just like trying to recognize the lakes, and I was like, that's a lake. I don't know, man.
Jeez.
So yeah, that was pretty hectic.
Oh, you live to tell the tale.
Yeah, and I've been back there maybe like 4 or 5 more times. But yeah, the labyrinth is aptly named. It's easy to get lost in.
I haven't been. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in the hut there's something written about like a few people who have been lost up there, and like their bodies have never been recovered.
Wow.
So it's pretty wild.
Yes, they can easily happen in nature. It is,
as I found out.
Yeah. Yes. Luckily, you were one of the survivors. Jeez.
Yeah.
But I guess, you went on to bigger and better things. Eventually, you decided to hike Te Araroa, which is a bit of a step up in distance and length and difficulty than I guess some of these shorter adventures you'd been doing.
Yeah.
Why TA? Was that your first through hike, your first long hike?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd done the Lari Pinta a couple of times, but that is obviously maybe like 1/20th the length.
Yep.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely a big step up. I mean, we'd done trips in Tasmania where we'd be hiking for like 3 months at a time. Mm-hmm. So we'd been out on trails for that long, but
Sure,
obviously
okay.
it was a different style. So yeah, definitely first big long thru hike.
And so all these hikes you've been doing with Catherine for the most part?
Mostly,
Yeah.
yeah. All these terrible mishaps were by myself.
Sure, okay. There's a theme there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh god. But yeah, so no, I wasn't the first choice. We got permits to do the PCT in 2020. Obviously, that fell through. Like we had moved out, quit our jobs,
Wow.
got all sorted, and I think it was about a week before we were due to fly out. Everything, like we went for a training hike on the Bib, and when we got back, it was like no international flights, nothing.
COVID
like,
happened.
It was happening so quickly back
Wow.
then, if you remember. Yeah. So
Yeah.
plans went to nothing, and then we were like, we'll just go sobo, wait for this to all blow over.
Yeah.
2 months. Yeah.
Didn't blow over, did it?
Nope.
We had a similar experience. We were living in Japan. It all happened, so we came home to Perth just to let it blow over.
Yeah.
We planned to fly back to Japan. We were living there, and we're like, we'll give it a month, and we'll give it 3 months, and then it's just we've never gone back because it didn't blow over.
Yeah.
Well, it took like a year or whatever to blow over.
Yeah.
Crazy time.
Yeah. So I was really upset. We were both really upset. But then as it got more serious, we were like, yeah, whatever. It's just a holiday. Like there's actually tragedies occurring, and so no big deal. But yeah, so then we just kept working, went back to our jobs and found like temporary living situations. And then we kind of felt like we wanted to go to New Zealand before America at that stage. I don't know. It had mostly like calmed down, but I don't know. The TA was just, I think the season worked better and it was closer to home, maybe slightly easier.
Yeah.
Logistically to get over there anyway.
Definitely easy logistically. You don't need visas. You don't need to do a 24-hour flight.
Yeah.
New Zealand is basically Australia's like little brother. So
yeah. So yeah, and then so we can't remember what year we did that, but did the North Island. Went relatively okay. My partner, Catherine, her feet basically had issues the whole time, so she was just managing that. But yeah, like as you know, like it's just tough in the North Island, like logistically, mentally and physically, it's a challenging trail.
Yeah, when I did the TA, I skipped a lot of the road walking on the North Island, which I think is probably one of the more mentally challenging parts because it's fairly monotonous and not as interesting as some of the more wilderness areas. And I think a lot of people do struggle with that. I started south, so for me, the end was the road. And at that point, I just didn't have it in me and I had to get home for a wedding and all this stuff. Whereas I think if you start north, you're kind of like so excited to hike that you just do the roads and then the South Island's coming kind of thing.
I really feel for the people who are going northbound and are wanting to do both the islands because, it would be mentally really tough. Like I don't know of that many people who actually do it that way. Like because we crossed a lot of northbounders, but like invariably they're all just doing the South Island, which is kind of what I recommend for people who want to just enjoy the hike as opposed to actually doing a thru hike. It's
the South Island is definitely the more beautiful and wild and rugged sort of half of the trail, isn't it? If you're going to do one half, you do the South Island.
I would have to agree. Yeah. But we met people who said they preferred the North Island.
Interesting.
A very few people, but they're out there. And then other people said they at least enjoyed the North Island.
Yeah.
A lot of them were skipping all the roads. So it is a good trick to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
The North Island.
Yeah, the parts that you are on trail in the North Island are awesome.
Yeah.
I loved a lot of the sections, but
I
guess it's the in between.
Tongariro and Wanganui. And the Te Araroas were maybe my favourite section of the whole hike. They were...
It's weird. The Te Araroas are either your favourite section or your least favourite. For me, it was the least favourite. I had a terrible time there.
I think I remember you saying that. Yeah, because you were basically injured and had terrible weather.
Yeah, I had
right?
like tibia tendinitis, horrific weather. I was completely solo. I was completely solo the entire time I was in the Te Araroas, except when I reached huts, which were all full every
Wow.
time, so I had to camp.
That is not what you want.
And it just sucked. It really sucked. I honestly hated it, but it was beautiful. Like the forest up there, and when the weather cleared, like I had some good views.
It sounds exactly the opposite. We were in like a really cool group.
Yeah.
And the weather was absolutely fantastic. Before going up, I was talking to the guy at that camp, and he was talking about weather, and I was like, what would you rate the weather? And he was like, maybe like 4 out of 10 or something like that. And I was like, looking at the forecast, I was like, it looks pretty good. It was 10 out of 10 weather. I don't know what this guy was talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had like beautiful sunrises from on like the grassy ridges, and like it was maybe the toughest section of the hike. Like we were all falling over. I fell onto like the only rock on that whole ridge line, had like a massive like hand-sized bruise on my butt.
Yeah.
With like 10 different colors. But we're all falling over and just laughing and like...
Type 2 fun. You can look back on it.
It was type 1 fun.
It was type 1 fun.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. It was like,
mine was... Yeah. My Te Araroa was probably type 3 fun. Whereas like maybe in 10 years I would look back on it fondly.
Yeah.
But so you did the North Island and then you got off trail, is that right?
Yeah. So we went onto the South Island, did the Richmonds as well, which were freaking awesome. So we were like, we had just done the Te Araroas, just on the Richmonds after Queen Charlotte track, and we were like, wow, now we're getting to the meat. And then my partner hurt her foot towards the end of the Richmonds, so we got off trail, went back to Nelson. We thought it was a stress fracture. We kind of got told it's probably a stress fracture. Right. So we ended up driving around to see if it got better. Didn't get better, so we ended up bike packing from Nelson to Bluff anyway, and kind of just met the kind of friends that we were hiking with there.
Yeah.
So, but pretty bummed getting off trail at that juncture. Was bad timing, and Catherine felt bad for kind of bringing the trip to an early close. But we went back next season, and did the South Island, and it was awesome as well.
We won't spend too much time on Te Araroa, but what was probably your favourite couple of sections or couple of days on the trail? Yeah,
Te Araroa's, and then obviously Nelson Lakes is beautiful, Richmond's beautiful.
Lakes,
yeah, probably Te Araroa's. I really liked Tongariro crossing as well, just that one day, because there was weather warnings in place, and we kind of did it in the afternoon. So like we literally didn't see anyone on the crossing. We saw like 2 people early on. They buggered off, and we had dinner up there next to one of the lakes and saw the sunrise saw the sunset as we were walking out. Yeah, wow. So that was magical for sure.
I had terrible weather on Tongariro as well. I think I got really unlucky on the North Island.
That sounds so unlucky.
Because when I was in Northland, there was like cyclone coming through, and it was like everything was closed and destroyed. It's like the North Island hated me. I did start late, so by the time I was up that way, summer was well and truly over. But
that's nice, because like
I kind of want to go redo it all.
Yeah.
Early summer, maybe.
Very early summer. We started in December on the North Island going south, and it was just hot and humid. Like, it was disgusting.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was so tropical. And I was not expecting that. I was like, New Zealand will be freezing, so our quilts are like massively overrated.
Mine was too, yeah. Yeah, I had the same exact thought process.
Had terrible sleep. Yeah.
Beautiful trail.
Great trail.
And then I guess eventually you kind of were like, well, we got to go back and do the PCT now. You were going to do it in 2020.
We were never not going to do the PCT.
It was always going to happen.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So the Te Araroa was just kind of like a little detour.
Yeah.
To eventually do the PCT.
I think like as soon as you start hiking a lot and just looking at any kind of long trail with any kind of interest, you're going to land on the PCT eventually, I think. And so, our year was 24. We had permits in 23 as well, but Catherine's foot was, I think, still pretty bad. So yeah, third time lucky. 2024, got the permits, actually went over, and
got on trail. You must have been pretty excited at that point to be at Campo Southern Terminus PCT after many years of trying.
I don't think it really hit me that I was on the PCT until we got to the Northern Terminus.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was kind of just like, I'd just like be walking around and be like, it just felt like another hike, and then I'd be like, this is the PCT. Oh my goodness. Like
Yeah.
I've been dreaming about walking on this trail for like 10 years, like since I started hiking.
Yeah.
Since I had that terrible time on the Cape to Cape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those years ago.
So yeah, really looking forward to it. And yeah,
Did it live up to the hype?
it exceeded it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was massively hyped up. And yeah, like every section was absolutely stunning, and I didn't have a single bad day. Definitely the best trail I've walked.
I tell people that I didn't have a bad day. Every day for me was like pretty much a highlight. It seems almost unbelievable because like there were obviously hard days and sometimes there were bad weather days, but every day was just epic and awesome. There's no trail like the PCT in the world where you have for over 4,000 kilometers of like single track. It's like pristine,
which is a shame. I wish there was like 10 more PCTs.
I know. Like, I don't know how they've done it. It's incredible how much single track they have in a row. There's no road walking or anything like that.
Yeah, actually, that's
you compare it to
insane.
like the Bib or the Te Araroa, and it's incredible.
I reckon there's probably like maybe 6 miles of road walking.
6 miles, yeah.
Something like that.
2,500.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
I think they were lucky. They had like this big mountain range going up the side of their country, and usually the mountain ranges are like, you know, cleared and developed last.
Yeah.
Maybe that helped. I don't know.
Yeah.
And like actually like inventing the national park system and like conserving land.
Yeah. What was your starting date for the PCT?
The 24th or maybe the 26th. I want to say 24th of April.
April. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were about a week before I was.
Yeah.
And what was that first sort of month or two like on trail? You've obviously done a lot of hiking before. Southern California,
Yeah.
new country. I don't know if you've hiked in the US before this.
First time in the US.
Yeah, what was that first impression, first experience? The people, the trail, the places?
Yeah, we started off at Scout and Frodo's, and that was awesome. Like, their situation is fantastic. We stayed there 2 nights in their tree house, which is
Sick.
like, it was so good.
I didn't get the treehouse.
Oh, man.
I was jealous.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
And like an actual mattress there too, which is super nice. Yeah, such a good setup. But yeah, so, yeah, and then starting the trail, I don't know, just, it felt like any other trail, but then, like, on the first day, we saw this really cool lizard, and we're like, whoa, that's crazy. And then you see, like, I don't know, chipmunks, and you're like, whoa, and squirrels, and oh my goodness. And the cacti were insane. I've never just been walking around and seeing cacti just native to the area, just like growing, and everything started to be in flower, like around like Scissors Crossing. Like just north of Scissors Crossing was one of my favorite sections of trail, because we did it like around twilight, sunset, and there was heaps of cacti all in flower, like being beautifully backlit, and you're like going up the mountains. It was, yeah.
And you obviously
loved
had
the desert.
You bring you brought your camera with you, right? So you were taking photos throughout the whole trip.
Yeah, lots of photos, mostly of cacti.
Mostly of cacti. There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, the desert was beautiful. I really like it was, the weather was fantastic. It was cool. Like, it wasn't too hot.
Yeah.
There was plenty of water around. The desert was really green. I remember my friend Brendan, who started like a couple of weeks after us, he one of his first posts, because he'd done the first 1,000 miles before,
Right.
and he started again the same year as us, and he said the desert forgot to desert this year. It was so green.
That
and
was the
lush,
vibe.
and,
I think there was just a bit more rain prior to summer.
Yeah.
There was flowers. There was water everywhere.
Yeah.
We definitely had like a few heat waves
Towards the end, I would
towards the
say.
end of the desert. Yeah.
But yeah,
But for the most part, it was lovely.
Yeah, it was just really nice, dry, had dry feet
Yeah.
the entire time, which always makes me happy. I hate wet feet. So after doing the TA, I was just dreaming of the PCT. Nice, well-graded trail, dry feet, no rain, cool overnight, warmish during the day. It was, I loved that hiking style. After going through the desert, people were just, like, oh, get me into the Sierras. I was like, I could just keep hiking in the desert.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I was definitely looking forward to getting to the Sierras. I think I got to not Cascade Locks, Candy Meadow South during a heat wave. And so I was just like, okay, desert's behind me now. Get me into the mountains.
I think we got there basically the same time. And
We saw each other there.
Yeah.
That's where we first saw each other,
I
right?
think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was those heat waves,
Yeah.
which were nasty. Yeah, it was hot.
Yeah, so you enjoyed it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I guess section 2, Sierra Nevada.
Wow.
You probably had a bit more wet feet during Sierra.
Not really. No.
No, dodged some of those river crossings, hopped over some rocks.
Yeah, I'm definitely... I don't know how I haven't injured myself just hopping over rocks. Like, I'll take them at a run.
Really?
Yeah. Just like
to not get your feet
launch
wet.
myself over rivers and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, maximum effort. Like, I'd spend like 10 minutes at a crossing going upstream, looking for a log,
Yeah.
looking at the rocks, seeing if I can connect them up. And yeah, I mean, I probably had wet feet through the Sierras like twice, maybe.
I definitely didn't put as much effort in to try and get across. I just was like, if I couldn't see something obvious, I'm just going to walk through.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have like I'm not going to say like irrational, because I don't enjoy walking with wet feet, but
It's not fun. It's definitely not
I definitely put more effort into avoiding it than what is strictly like rational.
fun. Sure, makes sense. Did you love the Sierra though? That was
it
my
was
favorite
insane.
section of the PCT.
It's got to be everyone's favorite section, unless they missed it or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. How could you not love the Sierra? It was just
Incredible.
mind blowing every day.
No roads, no civilization, just
Jaw-dropping views everywhere. Walking on snow was awesome. I mean, we had a little bit of that as San Jacinto and Baden Powell, but the Sierra was just... I mean, we didn't have to walk on too much snow, but walking on a little bit,
it's fun.
it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe I've been missing out on this,
Yeah.
living in Australia this whole time.
Yeah.
So I might have to try and do some more winter trips or something. But yeah, I really enjoyed the snow. The views were insane.
Do you have a highlight in the Sierra? Your favorite day?
I mean, Mount Whitney sunrise is ridiculous. Like, the views were definitely the best views on trail.
Yeah. Incredible.
I really liked Forrester's Pass. Like, going down it, it's just this big slab of snow, and then you get around and there's like, I don't know, like waterfalls just like cascading out of the snow, and
Ridiculous.
just big amphitheaters of rock that
And
there's
you can
just like
kinda,
ice.
you can see so far ahead of you up on Forrester Pass. Like, you kind of like, that's what we're going to go hike in.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
And the valleys are so beautiful and
Incredible.
You have like rivers with like ice going over it, and I don't know, it was just stunning. And we did the classic early wake up, do a pass, get to the base of the other pass, early wake up, do the pass, that kind of thing. And which probably wasn't necessary given the amount of snow, but I really liked being up on the passes like around sunrise.
Yeah.
It was stunning.
Same. It was always tough getting up that early because often the mornings were quite cold.
Yeah.
But then you get up to the top of the pass and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Everything's like illuminated at golden hour. It's like so beautiful.
It's insane. It was mind blowing. I hadn't really looked into what it was going to be like. I hadn't looked at like videos of it or anything like that, but I just knew that it was everyone's favorite section all the time. And I was like, but yeah,
It's going to be good.
As per usual, it blew the expectations out of the water.
It's interesting, the PCT, because there's so much hype around it. Everyone talks it up, but it's just like better than everyone says.
You have to go there and experience it.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it. Yeah.
But yeah, and even Northern California, which, you know, is everyone's least favorite section, I guess I can understand that, but it's like, it's not the worst section. It's just everyone's least favorite section. It's still awesome.
That's been my mindset. I loved it. I actually love Northern California, but it was still my least favorite section.
Yeah.
Just because every other section is so incredible.
Yeah. It's almost unfair. Like, if that section was like a hike by itself, people would be like, oh, it's great. Yeah, I really enjoyed
100%.
it. If it was in Australia, it'd be like Australia's best hike.
Yeah.
For sure.
Totally.
Like,
100%.
and there is a few burn zones too, which I know people complain about a lot, but I thought it was really interesting walking through the burn zones and like looking at like the different kind of levels of burn, because you get some areas that have like regrown, and you got some areas where the fire was so hot, like even like 3 or 4 years later, there's been nothing regrowing because all the seed bank has just been like incinerated. So I even found that quite interesting, walking through these really desolate, kind of almost like post-apocalyptic kind of like burn zones.
Yeah, I guess NorCal and up, into Oregon and Washington's where the fires tend to be pretty brutal, at least for PCT hikers during the season. And we had a few big fires this year. Obviously, we walked through burn zones from previous years. You got stuck in the park fire, didn't you? Or you were in that area, which was sort of the biggest fire on trail this year. And I know that you have a very intense philosophy on not skipping miles on these through hikes. You love hitting every single mile, which I respect. I love it. Yeah. But being forced to skip miles sometimes, that was definitely challenging for you.
Yeah, I do. I think if there's fire closures and the trail is closed and it just stays closed, I think they're not available and you don't need to walk them. But I was definitely going to try and walk every mile.
Every mile possible.
Yeah, which I kind of think should be the default.
The goal.
Yeah. But that's a bit controversial. Maybe we won't get into that. But
we can get into it because I think there's definitely people on trail that quite happily just skip hundreds of miles for no particular reason besides maybe they just didn't want to hike that section or whatever.
A lot of people were just skipping for convenience.
Yeah.
Which I think is fine. But then as soon as my sticking point is as soon as you go and say that, you free hike the PCT, then you're kind of devaluing other people's free hikes. So if you only hike 2,000 miles, someone else hikes 26,000. So 2,600.
Yeah.
Have you done the same thing? Mm-hmm. You'll probably say that you've done the same thing, but maybe the other person might have earned it a little bit more.
Sure.
So if I did the PCT, skipped 1,000 miles, got to the northern terminus in 40 days. Have I just set an FKT on the PCT? Probably not. Maybe in the hike your own hike category, but there's something that isn't quite the same.
So you had to skip a few sections due to fires. I think almost everyone on trail did this year.
Yeah.
But I know you went back to sort of hike them when the trails reopened, or you tried to do detours around them when you could.
So we did get caught a little bit in park fire. We would have nailed it, but we all got noro.
That's right. You guys got sick,
Yeah, so we stayed in Burnie for 4 days. That park fire just erupted overnight. Yeah. It was just a little fire and then it was huge.
Yeah.
And I'm also a little bit asthmatic. So we didn't have masks at the time because we weren't planning on walking through any. So we skipped up to Shasta, which was a massively good call in the end because even on the drive through, I could feel my lungs kind of tightening up. So hiking would not have been good.
What I found was strange was people for example, the park and the fire near Etna, people would skip the open section in between those two fires and just go all the way up almost to the Oregon border just because it was, I guess, more convenient to skip the whole way rather than stopping, hiking and then skipping again.
Yeah, which to me, I'm convenience is not a valid reason to skip in my mind.
Yeah, I guess...
we're not out there for convenience. Mm-hmm. It's I think people were just not willing to make their hike any harder. And I met people who skipped because it was too hot, skipped because they were over walking, which is strange. Skip because even really early on, Mission Creek in Southern California, it wasn't closed. There was a warning in place because a bit of trail was washed out.
Yeah.
I think about 50% of hikers just skipped it. Yeah. Because the trail was slightly more difficult than what it was before it was washed out. So I was really surprised by that. I thought all these American hikers were super purist. Maybe it's more on the East Coast. Yeah. But I don't know what was with our year. We're all really soft this year or something.
I think everyone just has different goals and different reasons for being out there. And I think a lot of people are just new to it. The PCT for a lot of people is their first through hike. And so I guess when something gets hard, they don't know what to do. And their friend that they just met, it's skipping. So they're okay, I've got to skip too.
Yeah, I think that's part of it as well. When you're in groups and someone is I'm just going to skip. Yeah. It's kind of... It's pretty easy to be okay, we'll just do that. Yeah. Which, fair enough. Hike your own hike, but then as long as it's not impacting other people, and I kind of think devaluing other people's hikes almost counts as impacting. But
I 100% agree with
that's
that.
a hot take.
Yeah, I like it, mate. We love hot takes here.
I don't know if many people would agree with me, but that's how I see it anyway.
I think a lot of people would disagree, but that's because they probably skip trail.
Yeah.
And they're offended.
I've skipped trail too. Like on the TA, we skipped a lot of the state highway and like dangerous roads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't really see the TA as kind of that. It's more like a find your own journey as opposed to hike every mile, which I kind of thought the PCT was going to be.
It's definitely a different hike to the PCT.
Yeah.
TA.
Like I wouldn't really say people are like, thru-hiked the TA. Like very few people actually do that. Like maybe 5 or 10% of hikers, and the rest of people kind of just have a cool adventure journey. That seems to be more the spirit.
Definitely, yeah.
And I kind of thought the PCT would be we're all here to hike the PCT, or at least all available miles, which I kind of think should be the baseline for thru-hiking. But people are having a good time. Can't knock them down for having a good time.
That's it. Cool. So PCT 2024, congrats, man.
Thank you, and you too.
Yeah,
I believe actually. I don't know about PCT miles, but I got to say you probably hiked the most miles from start to finish.
I did a lot of side trails. Yeah. I didn't go back and do some of the skip miles we had to do because of the fires like you, but I
think you made up for it.
I made up for it, and that was my justification. Like I had walked 500 extra miles off trails. So I'm like, that'll do me. I've walked my 5,000 kilometers almost.
That's a lot of walking.
Yeah, PCT is the best thing I've ever done.
By far.
Yeah. Same for you.
Absolutely.
Incredible experience. And
would love to do it. Like even getting to the end, a lot of people were just done with the hike. A lot of people just exhausted, be like, oh, I just want to, like, we stayed at the monument for a while. Some guy like literally went there. He got there, filtered some water, like sat down, filtered some water, and then just left straight away. It was like, whatever, it's done, finally. And we were just like, I wish we could just like turn around and go back again.
Yeah, wow.
Like,
I was definitely ready to be finished at the end, but the PCT is one of those things for me that like I wish I could do it for the first time again. Like, I almost wish I could forget about it.
Neuralize it yourself.
Yeah, I just go do it again because it was just, like we said before, every day was a highlight. It was incredible. The people were awesome. The trail's awesome. The community, it's just incredible experience.
Go Sobo.
Maybe I'll go Sobo one year. My partner doesn't like thru-hiking, which makes it hard for me to go on too many of these.
Doesn't like thru-hiking herself, or doesn't like you thru-hiking?
She likes me thru-hiking because she knows I love it. But awesome. I think, being away for that long was tough. Has Catherine always enjoyed that? Is it something you've kind of dragged her into, or she dragged you into it, or how's that dynamic work?
I definitely got her into hiking, and she got me into like scuba diving.
Cool.
So she was a fish, and I was kind of just like, I don't know what the land-based equivalent is, but
into each other's worlds.
Yeah, so it was really good. We definitely are really good at enriching. Well, she's good at enriching my life.
Yeah.
But she's super into it. She freaking loved the PCT.
Yeah,
she was
awesome.
Got to the end and she was like, this is awesome, let's go back.
I'm still on that journey of bringing Karis into the thru-hiking world. We've done a few like overnight backpacking trips, but something like the PCT she's not interested in just yet. We'll see where that goes.
It's not for everyone. Like if it was for everyone, it would suck because there'd be like 1 million people on the PCT every year.
Yeah, that's right.
But we have to find people to look after our cat and like shifting rentals around, so it's kind of nice to have someone at home to hold the fort, I guess, but then being away for that long, that'd be tough.
It's definitely tough, but I think it works well because we both have the things we enjoy and we both get our own individual time to enjoy those things, and I think we both grow in those times as well, which is quite beneficial. Like Karis always says that when I'm away, it's a big time of growth for her, so she like really enjoys it.
You're just holding her back.
Yeah, maybe. Jeez. Yes, but no, I'll continue to keep pushing her to come outside with me. We were wanting to do the Camino de Santiago next year, so not as much of a wilderness hike, but a long walk.
It's a good stepping stone.
It could be a good stepping stone. Yeah.
Maybe you should tell her about the Bibbulmun. It's a good first thru hike, according to
You know what?
someone.
She has said to me a couple of times that she would walk the Bibbulmun Track, so that might happen.
That's awesome.
That might happen at some point. Maybe do the Camino. Get the long walk out with showers and beds involved, and then we'll try the bib.
Yeah, it's like a frog in boiling water. Just keep increasing that
That's
temperature.
right. Just get her used to it.
Yeah.
Eventually she'll fall in love. How can you not? Thru-hiking's the best.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know anything about the Caminos, but yeah.
I think it's a little less dirty and wild because you get like hostels every night and stuff like that, which is more her style.
that does sound good.
Yeah. So you finished the PCT, you came home, and I think we talked a bit about it on the PCT. You had this idea of potentially doing the Bibbulmun Track and attempting an FKT. And so for those who don't know, FKT, fastest known time, maybe explain what that is and the different categories and why you chose to do the unsupported category. And why did you decide to do this in the first place? Because it's a crazy idea what you did.
Yeah, really dumb. FKT, fastest known time. It's just a bunch of stupid people trying to do various trails as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Usually they're trying to like one up the previous person's time. Usually just high effort, high intensity, just gone really fast. So there's 3 categories. You can be supported, self-supported, or unsupported. Supported is kind of like mostly dominated by runners, and they'll have like a support crew. Maybe they'll have pacers. They'll have people like in a van following them.
There's essentially no limitations for supported category. You can just have like an entire team, doing whatever you need to get you to the end.
Foot massages every time you stop. I don't know. Everyone's just pulling together to get you over the line in a ridiculously fast time.
Yeah.
Like people are probably doing like 100 Ks a day at least.
Yeah, on some of the trails.
On the pretty serious ones.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not my style. I'm not really like a fast-paced kind of hiker.
Yeah.
Self-supported is like just a pretty typical thru-hiking style. But you can't have any... Oh, maybe you'd know more than me, but like you can't have support that's like particularly for you. Like
you can't have a support team. You can't have people bring you food or pace you, but you can go into towns and get food yourself. You can do food drops for yourself, I believe. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then unsupported is the crazy category.
It's very different. It's really kind of like the black sheep in the categories. You can't
zero outside assistance.
No external assistance whatsoever, with a few exceptions, which we can go into. But so no food resupply. You can't buy food. You can't buy drinks. No pies. No coffee. No chocolate bars or
only what you can. Whatever you carry on your back, that's all you can use essentially.
Yeah, and you have to carry all your gear from start to finish. It's pretty hardcore. Gets harder the longer the trail is, obviously. If it's like a 1-day trail,
easy to carry one day's worth of food.
Anyone can do that.
Bibbulmun Track, 1,000-kilometre long trail. Typically people hike that in like 4 to 6 weeks. Obviously you're going to try and do it faster, but the very minimum you're going to have to carry 2 or 3 weeks worth of food from the start.
So it's a weird balancing act. Obviously the more food you carry, the more days you can have to do the trail. Yeah. But then you have a heavier pack and it's going to be like really heavy at that kind of distance. So more impact on your feet, your joints, your muscle. It's just harder. But you can't go too fast because then you're doing crazy mileage with still like a fairly decently heavy pack. Like there's only so fast you can do 1,000 Ks.
Yeah.
So for unsupported, there's a few surprising rules. You can charge stuff from public outlets.
Okay, so you can use public electricity.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just not from any commercial source. It has to be free and available to the public.
Okay.
So I charged my power banks as I was going through.
Yeah.
And you can get water from like public fountains and stuff like that.
Okay.
But you can't from any commercial source, even if it's free. So you can't like go into a cafe and use their, nice water cooler or something like that.
Public fountains or faucets and stuff like that's okay. And obviously like water tanks at campsites are okay.
Yeah. And you can use the shelters on the bib. It took me a few days until I actually realised that I hadn't really checked that I can use the shelters, and I hadn't used the shelters, so I emailed the FKT people while I was on the trail.
Did you?
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, no, they're fine. And I was like, oh, cool, I can sleep in the next shelter. That's cool.
So Bibbulmun Track, 1,000 kilometres, your goal was to walk it unsupported as fast as possible, essentially.
Well,
I don't think anyone else had attempted the FKT for unsupported before, because it's just a stupid thing to do.
There was no record. So
You were going to set the record.
Yeah, so I wasn't trying to do it as fast as possible. I was just trying to do it.
Just trying to do it, okay.
But you have to go at a certain pace, otherwise you're just carrying too much food. And there was
if
only
you plan
so
to
much
do
food.
it in 30 days, you just can't carry that much food, right? So what was your goal, like your pace, or how many days did you want to finish the track in when you went into it?
Yeah, so I wanted to do it in 17 days.
17.
And I was flip-flopping, umming and ahhing about what would be the right amount of days to do it.
Yeah.
So I was initially thinking like 20 days, 50 Ks a day. Sounds okay. It's just going to be too heavy. That's kind of like 23 kilos or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just chose the least amount of days that I thought I could manage the mileage, and I wasn't really sure how the weight would affect me. So yeah, it was kind of just a guess.
Yeah.
Maybe like 18 days would have been slightly easier, but I also kind of wanted to push myself at least a little bit.
I mean, coming off the Pacific Crest Trail, you're obviously super fit. You were feeling strong.
Yeah.
And just wanting to sort of test what you were capable of. So
yeah, I had this idea on the PCT of doing something like that. And it was after meeting a hiker at like the John Muir Trail Ranch who just was carrying the most insanely heavy pack. I think it was like 70 pounds.
wow.
I don't know what that is, something like 30 kilos. And I remember we were joking about how long we could go without resupplying while still having the same pack weight as this guy.
Right.
And it was like over a month.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, I wonder how far like people have gone without resupplying. Because I knew of some people who had done some crazy treks. Like I think Philip, this kind of explorer dude, had like walked the length of Tasmania, like unsupported.
Wow.
It was like pack rafting, and he had like an insanely heavy pack. And so I was like, and then I read about the AZT unsupported hikes that Ben Brody and Heather Anderson did, which is longer than the Bib. So I kind of knew it was possible, but Triple Crown is obviously a niche is ridiculous in a league of her own. But, so it was really the Oregon challenge that it was doing kind of the mileage that I need to do on the Bib. It was kind of like a test run for me to see how I would go. I mean, I had a light pack, obviously, but I did that relatively comfortably. So yeah, that was at the point. That was kind of the point I decided that I'd at least give it a go.
Have a go.
Yeah.
So what was your pack weight on day one, and how was day one with the heavy? That's the heaviest your pack's going to be, because obviously as you eat food, it's going to get lighter, and then towards the end, it's going to be the lightest.
Yeah. Started off about 19 kilos.
19 kilograms. That's with gear and food.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So my base weight was about 3.7 kilos, and I think I had about 14.5 kilos of food, and that 19 kilos was with water. I think it was about 750 mils or something like that. It was horrendous. Yeah, it was really tough. Well, like the first 20 Ks, I was like, all right, whatever. There was some hills, no big deal.
You were fresh.
Yeah. I was like, this isn't going to be so hard.
Yeah.
And then, the hills, any kind of elevation with that kind of pack, it just kicks your ass.
Yeah.
And like, the muscular fatigue just set in really quickly and kind of didn't really let up at all for the first 2 weeks. But yeah, like going down, it was like, I felt like I was an 80-year-old. I was like shuffling down the steps, like one foot on the step, the other foot on the step, lower myself down the step.
Really?
Like, it was not very nice. And even on the flat with that kind of weight, it feels like you're going uphill. And when you are going uphill, it's kind of like the grade was like tripled or something like that. It was,
everything's just harder.
The hills wrecked me on the first day, and the second day, and the morning of the third day. Yeah, it was the northern stretch is the hilliest.
It's pretty hilly.
So yeah, I was just absolutely exhausted.
Did you have doubts after those first couple of days? You're like, am I going to be able to keep pushing? Or
Yeah. Like, even starting off before the first couple of days, I had my doubts. Like I did a training hike with about 17 kilos, doing about 50 Ks a day.
Yeah. And
that was the first time I realized like kind of how hard it was going to be.
Yeah.
How much of just a slog. It was just hard. But even before then, I was like, I don't think I can really do this. So yeah, I definitely had my doubts. I thought the most likely outcome would be me getting injured. I thought I could do like 3 days and then I'd get injured on day 4 or 5. I thought that was the most likely outcome. Ended up getting injured on day 3. So
What'd you do?
it was my left foot just got really sore on the top.
Yeah.
It's called like the flexor brevis area. The kind of the things that flex your middle toes up. So they got really sore. I had to kind of like pull up, massaged it a bit, kept walking, hoped it got better. It didn't. I was just getting worse.
Damn.
So then I had to, I stopped and like, this will work on video, but probably not audio. But yeah, I was pulling my toes up and that would just be really painful through here. And then I'd push my toes down and it'd be really painful through there. So I was kind of limping quite badly at this point. And then I just put some KT tape on it and almost instantly it felt a little bit better.
Really?
And then throughout the day, it didn't get any worse. So I think KT tape, which I'd never ever used before, kind of saved me. Even if I have any problem, like I'd usually just use Leuco tape. If anything was sore, I'll be like Leuco tape. But now it's KT tape.
Yeah.
I only carried 2 strips of KT tape. So I was rationing it.
And that saved you.
I wish I'd carried like twice as much.
Yeah, because obviously you couldn't pick up some more in a town. You're doing this unsupported.
Nope. Yeah.
So after you taped it up, it felt a bit better, and then
I could keep going. And
yeah.
the next morning, it was still hadn't really like miraculously recovered overnight, but I could still walk, and I wasn't just gonna give up the first little niggle injury. I thought it might have gotten more serious, and I'd probably have to pull out. Like it was at this point, I was like, all right, I should probably, this is dumb. Like I should probably be doing like more important things and, I don't know, finding a job or something. But
you persevered?
Yeah, it was okay.
So walk me through the next couple of weeks. I guess, were you starting with lower mileage, planning to increase the mileage as your pack weight lowered?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So your first few days were a bit shorter, and then the next week it kind of got bigger. And
yeah, so in my head, I kind of did it so that the kind of effort for every day would be about the same.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, I think the first 4 days, I think I averaged like 50 Ks a day. And then, well, it's kind of, this is where it gets a little bit complicated for the bib, because I wanted to be doing like 50s, then 55s, and then, between like 60 and 65 towards the end.
Yeah.
But because you're unsupported, you can't stop in towns. And because it's the Bibbulmun, you can only wild camp in certain areas. You mostly have to be...
It's quite restricted, yeah.
You mostly have to be at the shelters.
So you're beholden to the shelters and the distances between each one, I guess.
Yeah. So at the start, they're really close, but in general, they're about 20 Ks away from each other. So if I wanted to do 50 Ks, that's 2.5 shelters.
Right.
So it doesn't work out. And if I'm passing through a town, or like if I was scheduled to stop next to a town, like that's like a 40K gap that I can't sleep in.
Right.
So if I had planned it poorly, it would have either been a 40K day, which is obviously way too short, or an 80K day, which with a heavy pack, or even without a heavy pack, like that's a long day.
Big day. So you had to quite meticulously plan this beforehand.
Yeah, I had spreadsheets. I had spreadsheets within spreadsheets. And I had like mapped out everywhere on the trail. Like I got QGIS, which is like a mapping software, loaded up the trail, loaded up all the areas that you're not allowed to camp in, which is public drinking water source areas, national parks, nature reserves and conservation reserves.
So most of the trail.
Yeah, it's roughly half, actually. They make it sound like it's like the whole trail.
So there are some places that it's okay.
Yeah. I probably wild camp maybe like 30% of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had that loaded up. I had like a note on my phone with all like kilometer 60 to 80 can't camp because it's a public drinking water source area. Yeah. Kilometer 135 to 140 can camp. It's in state park or something like that.
So did you keep pretty close to the plan then? Did you detour off it at all?
Like very slightly, but I basically stuck to it because I had to, really. Like if I like skipped a shelter, I didn't know whether the next day, if I still did the planned mileage, I would end up in like one of these camping dead zones where I'd be forced to either stop 10Ks early or do 30 more Ks. And
So if you felt good at the end of a day and you're like, maybe I could do 10 extra kilometres, it kind of wasn't an option a lot of the time because there was nowhere to camp.
No, never had that problem.
Okay.
Never felt good at the end of the day.
You were pretty wrecked by the end of every day.
Yeah, the weight really did a number on me. And so every day getting to bed, like my sleep was really bad because my legs were just in so much pain. It was like you did a massive workout for your lower body, but then like a few more levels. Like instead of that dull soreness, aching pain, it was like a sharp, piercing agony. And so I'd like the mileage I was planning to do, I would have like 8 or 9 hours in the start to sleep, which I was really banking on for, muscle recovery and just feeling good. But the first 3.5 hours of most nights, particularly towards the start, I was just laying in bed, rolling around. That's too painful. Wow. And I was hot because my legs were like, the metabolism was going crazy.
Yeah. Didn't know what was happening.
Yeah. So I slept really poorly for basically the whole trail.
When did you start noticing the pack getting lighter? And therefore maybe it getting a little easier, or the soreness being less intense, or was it always sort of equally hard even with the pack getting lighter?
It changed, yeah. So I was definitely expecting it to get lighter and easier, maybe a little bit earlier than it did.
Yeah.
I think it started to feel slightly better on day 6, but then day 7 was terrible. And I think day 8 to day 10 was like where it transitioned into being reasonably okay, back to feeling somewhat normal. So yeah, it was always a race between kind of like cumulative fatigue building up and up and up, and like the impact, the weight, and then conversely like the weight lessening and hopefully the impact dying down.
Yeah.
And I think I wasn't like right on the limit, but I think I got pretty close to what was dealable, I guess.
Sure. So you planned it pretty much perfect, you think, for where you're at?
Kind of, yeah. I think I wanted to push myself. I didn't want to get like so close to the limit that I would probably be injured. Because like, again, I wasn't there to break a record. I was just setting it, trying to survive. And that was kind of a shift in mentality too, because I was kind of the first few days, or before getting on trail, I was like, see how I go. Maybe I feel really good and I can like 50Ks is nothing, because I didn't know how the weight would really affect me. But after I got injured on day 3, particularly, was when I was like, I'm just gonna just try and survive, basically. Just
try and hold on for another day and another day.
Yeah. I took it day at a time, for sure.
Before you knew it, you were, I guess, on the home stretch.
No, it felt like it took forever. Like I really didn't enjoy it.
I guess every day would have been a grind.
It was such a grind.
Yeah.
Like the day, like usually the first like 20Ks would be okay.
Yeah.
And then anything over 20, I was just suffering.
Pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you get through it? Listening to music, podcasts? You'd probably be seeing other hikers along the track as well, which maybe gave you some distractions, some conversations.
There wasn't many hikers when I started, but I definitely got more towards the normal season as I finished, which is really cool. But yeah, listening to music was good. I think it was just hard. Like even with music, like usually on hikes, it would just give me so much energy if I listened to like some pump up or anything like that. But I wasn't doing it.
Yeah, it was just another level of fatigue.
It was just struggling. It was just like persevering, really.
So how was that last week? I guess the pack was a bit lighter. You could see the end.
Yeah, so I'd slept terribly up until I think the night of day 10. So day 10, which was the start of the last week, that's when I started feeling okay. Yeah, but I never really felt good. I never felt anything close to being fresh. Like I thought when my pack got to a normal weight, I might just be able to breeze through it. Yeah. But the fatigue had set in at that point. Like my muscles.
No coming back from it.
Yeah, like I was just trying to stave off injury basically for basically the whole trail. Yeah, I definitely didn't fully recover. But it definitely got easier. Like,
so you were doing bigger miles that last week then?
Yeah, I think I should have wrote this down, but yeah, I was doing Yeah, like something, probably like over 60 Ks a day, maybe like the last 6 or 5 days, something like that.
Yeah, wow.
I think for the whole trail, I kind of averaged a little bit under 60 Ks. So I must have been doing over 60 Ks for like the last week or so, something
Wow.
like that. Which doesn't sound too bad with like a normal pack weight. Like that's pretty comfortable for me usually, but it was still
With
a
that
massive
fatigue
grind.
and the build up.
Yeah.
Felt pretty
yeah.
good to get to the southern terminus.
Oh my goodness.
You're happy to be done.
I'm almost crying again just thinking about it. Yeah, it was such a relief.
Was Catherine there waiting for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like, thank God this is over.
Yeah. She had food as well and beer, which is great.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's an incredible achievement, dude.
Thank you.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think not many people will realise how hard doing something like that is.
Yeah, it was really hard. Getting a bit emotional thinking about it now, but yeah, it was just such a struggle.
Do you think someone else, will come along and try and one-up you?
Yeah, for sure. I think it wasn't on anyone's radar before.
I think that's...
Maybe now it is.
Because you set the time, no one probably had thought about it before.
Yeah.
Now they're like, okay, it's possible.
It's definitely not unachievable to be going faster. Like, yeah, like in theory, it could be like 13 or 14 days. Like, I think if you... Because I struggled a lot with my muscles, which were never sore on the PCT.
Yeah.
Like, never had an ounce of muscle fatigue, even doing the same mileage and like bigger elevation and anything like that. And they were just wrecked the entire time. So I think if someone was like, I don't know, like a weightlifter and also a thru-hiker, and also just like stronger hikers, obviously would be able to do it way faster. Well, I don't know faster, but...
If you had to give some advice to someone else attempting the unsupported FKT, what would it be?
Well, you obviously need to plan everything. You need to have a plan what to do about shelters. You need to know what kind of mileage is possible for you given the heavy pack. Probably do more training with the heavy pack. Like, I only did one overnighter.
Get used to that weight.
Get used to the weight. Yeah, for sure. Do long days with a heavy pack. Do a bunch of like weightlifting. Like, do squats and lunges with ridiculous weights. Like, I think that would have helped a lot.
There's definitely a difference between like pure strength in the legs and endurance, and I think it sounds like you need a bit of both for this kind of
I think I had
FKT.
The endurance and not the strength at all. It's also the foot pounding. Like, the normal foot pounding that you get when you're just hiking.
Yeah.
It just sets in really early. Like on the PCT, I would get sore feet from maybe like 40 Ks onwards at the end. But after 20 Ks, my feet felt like they'd done 40 Ks. So I think doing a thru-hike, like, I think the ideal preparation would be do a thru-hike or two.
Just do the PCT before you do this FKT.
Yeah. Well, I think you need strong tendons. Like, you're not going to get that overnight. I think having a reasonable base is going to be solid preparation, and then like lift a bunch of heavy weights or something.
Makes sense.
Would probably be ideal.
When you do a regular thru-hike, planning is like the last thing you really have to worry about. You're just going with the flow, but then something like this, you're saying planning is so much more important. You need to sort of plan everything out.
I think that's Bib particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of the camping restrictions and
mainly the camping restrictions. But also you do need to plan an unsupported. You can't just adapt.
Yeah.
Like, you start with everything. You can't change. Like, you can ration food, and if you go faster, you can eat more food. So there's a little bit of wiggle room, but you can't stretch it that much. And it's not ideal to ration.
Did you finish the hike with zero food left?
Yeah. I finished my last food 6 Ks out. I have a very good idea about how much food I want, and so I was never hungry. I enjoyed everything. Nailed the food. Nice. The food is great.
What kind of foods did you bring? Because you're obviously wanting to make it efficient as possible. You want calorie dense food that weigh as little as possible. What did you choose?
Yeah, so even like, this is pretty normal for hiking to choose the most calorie dense food, but even more so on this hike, I think. So like pretty normal stuff actually. Like Oreos. Like, I kind of just like...
Bag full of Oreos.
Yeah. Just Oreos.
Just Oreos.
But no, like I kind of had an idea of what foods are kind of high calorie. And so I kind of just went to Woolworths and like looked at the things that I'd enjoy hiking, made sure it was high enough calories.
Yeah.
Like 4 calories per gram is kind of like baseline, like the minimum of what you'd want to be taking.
What were your meals looking like? Did you have a stove?
No stove.
Okay.
So I cold soaked dinners, which I made beforehand, dehydrated, and then had them out on the trail. So I had like a pasta, kind of like a tomato sauce TVP that I put olive oil in, and that was so good.
Yeah, awesome.
It was kind of like going to a fridge for a midnight snack and having some pasta that you made. That was, dinners were freaking great. And then I had like a few beans and rice and like another kind of red curry that I'd made and dehydrated. Dinners were fantastic. And like the curry had like cashews and like fried onions and coconut milk powder. So those are like high calorie things and really good. And throughout the day, I would just eat as I went. Never really stopped for more than 10 minutes unless I was charging my power bank.
Okay, so no like breakfast and lunch stops. You'd just be walking, snacking on bars and Oreos and candy or whatever else you brought.
So I'd try and have about 50 grams of food per hour. That was kind of my allotment, I think. And I'd just get my food out the night before and just eat as I went. So it would be things like Oreos. There's a brand of cookies here that are vegan that are called kookaburras. Okay. It's like an Australian country cookie. Right. They were really good, really high calories. And Woolworths make like a granola cookie that is really good. Yeah. And they have like coconut and nuts in there too. So the calories are pretty good. No chips, which sucks. I am usually big on the chips because they're just so high calorie. And give you so much energy, but they're too bulky. And if you crush them down, they get like too oily eventually. So no chips. But yeah, stuff like that. Stuff you can eat on the go. Like sesame snaps are good.
Sounds like you enjoyed your food as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like very monotonous, unflavoured.
I got a few muesli bars and I was worried that I wouldn't enjoy muesli bars because like just over bars in general. Yeah. Like from thru hiking. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed them. Yeah, there was no food that I was like, oh, I got to force this down. It was like, oh, cool. Yeah. So yeah, food was great. Food was great. It was one of those things that actually went well.
Sounds like your planning went well for the most part. You are pretty aware of your abilities and what you like to eat and how much you need and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it was mainly the things that went badly were sleep.
Injury.
And yeah, a bit of injury. Had a few other niggles too, like my 4 feet joints were really sore at various stages, and I hurt one of my feet. I just like pivoted on it weirdly at some point, and it kind of felt like an injury. But I was getting into a town, so I was charging my power bank and had like half an hour break. So, and after that, it was pretty okay, thankfully. So I think I felt like I was dodging injury. Like every time I went to bed, I was so sore that I was like, I'm just gonna wake up and just limp straight away because I'm gonna like have pulled something or injured something. So I was lucky not to get anything serious, I think.
Anything that would actually force you off the trail.
Yeah, I was really expecting that to happen at some point, but when it didn't.
Shows the resilience you build doing a thru hike just before like the PCT, your tendons, your ligaments.
But you don't know until you really stress it out.
Yeah, so you put it to the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah, held up.
Yeah, other than the muscle fatigue, which kept me up, my body went pretty okay. Yeah. I mean, everything was sore, but didn't fall in a heap.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So what's next? You've done a lot over the last few years. This year's been huge for you.
Yeah. So the whole reason that we've been able to do so much recently is we were saving up for the PCT in 2020. Yeah. And then we had to work like a few more years. So we had a bit of like a war chest kind of built up. So now it's back to the office, I think, unfortunately.
The war chest has run out.
Yep. Yeah.
So back to work
it's
for a while.
Getting uncomfortably low. So yeah, it's going back to work, making more money.
Do you have any other big hikes or travels in the plans for once that war chest is recovered?
Definitely want to get back to the Larapinta. I just want to do that every year because it's such a good trail.
Yeah.
I love the Larapinta.
Trail. Yeah.
But then I think the CDT will probably be the next one.
CDT?
Yeah.
Wow.
Year after next, I imagine.
Year after next, CDT?
Yeah. Oh,
And
wait.
once you've done the CDT,
Yeah, no, it's not next year yet. Yep. Year after next.
2026?
2026, yeah. Hopefully. We'll see.
Once you've done 2, you got to do 3, so the AT will be 2 years after that maybe.
I don't know. I must be like a West Coast hiker or something like that, because everyone I spoke to on the PCT about the AT was like, no, I'd never do that. And I'm kind of the same. Like, it doesn't really appeal that much.
It doesn't speak to me either. No.
But then you talk to anyone, like literally anyone who's done the AT, and they've had an awesome time, and they loved it so much. So there's got to be something there. But yeah, it's not at the top of my list.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
The birds and the sounds out here in the wild, here in Perth, Western Australia.
Yeah, this is what you get. It's the morning, so the birds are calling.
Cockatoos are calling.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? You post your photos on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is Marley Butler Photo. I have a website where I wrote like a big long trip report about the bib.
FKT?
It goes day to day. And
what's the website?
It's marleybutler.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Go check that out. If you guys are interested in reading the FKT report, seeing some of Marley's photography, are you back to editing some of your photos now? Because I think you've got a bit of a backlog you need to work through, and I'm keen to see some PCT.
Eventually.
Yes,
yeah.
okay.
I'm making a new pack at the moment, so that's taking up my time.
Right.
But-
We didn't even get into the fact that you make your own packs, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah.
You got to share some of that stuff online as well, because your packs are sick.
Yeah, I should do.
Yeah.
It's another thing I haven't gotten around to doing.
You need to share more, man. You need to share more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not planning to work until the new year, so there'll be some
Plenty
time.
of time.
There'll be some time. I don't know.
Wonderful. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for
Appreciate
having
you
me.
guys.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you rate and follow and subscribe wherever you're listening to. Comment below your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.